The council chamber of Vareth Prime was silent. 300 species had gathered in the orbital station. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy. Holographic displays flickered with star maps, showing the crimson tide of the Krillian Dominion spreading across the outer territories. 12 worlds had fallen in as many weeks. The Dominion's dreadnoughts were unstoppable. Mile-long vessels equipped with graviton cannons that could shatter planets. Ambassador Telvik of the Ceranthian Collective stood at the central podium, his forearms gesturing desperately at the encroaching threat. We must consolidate our forces at the Kepler threshold. It's our last defensive line before they reach the core worlds. Consolidation is surrender, growled Commander Zax, a reptilian Korgothi whose species had already lost 2 colony worlds. The Dominion will crush any static defense. We've seen it 17 times. The chamber erupted in argument. Fear hung in the recycled air like smoke. Then the doors opened. The chamber fell silent as a figure walked through. A biped, relatively small, wearing a dark blue uniform that none of the assembled delegates recognized. Her skin was brown, her black hair tied back in a practical bun. She moved with quiet confidence, her boots echoing on the polished floor. "Forgive the interruption," she said, her voice carrying despite its calm tone. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. I believe we can help." The silence stretched for 3 full seconds. Then someone laughed. "Terran?" Ambassador Telvik's translator struggled with the word. He accessed the galactic archive, his face shifting through confusion to disbelief. "Humans. You've been extinct for 3 centuries. The quarantine zone around Sol has been empty for 347 years, Chen finished. "We've been busy." Another laugh, this time from multiple delegates. The Ceranthian's face flushed with indignation. "This is a crisis session. We don't have time for—" The main display flickered. Every hologram in the chamber went dark for exactly 2 seconds. When they returned, a new image dominated the center of the room. A warship unlike anything in the current galactic registry. It wasn't large by Dominion standards, perhaps half a mile long, but its design was alien in the truest sense. Angular, efficient, covered in what looked like adaptive armor plating. No decorative elements, no species-identifying markers, just brutal, elegant functionality. "That's the Defiant," Chen said. "My ship. She's currently holding position at the edge of this system. We have 19 more in our fleet, with another 100 en route from Earth. We spent the last 3 centuries rebuilding, adapting and learning from our mistakes." Commander Zax leaned forward, his predatory eyes narrowing. 20 ships? The Dominion has 10,000. You're either insane or suicidal. Neither. Chen walked closer to the display and the image zoomed to show tactical details. "We've been monitoring the Dominion for the past 50 years. We know their fleet compositions, their tactical doctrine, their supply chains. We know they rely on overwhelming firepower and expect their enemies to fight conventionally. Because that's how wars are fought," Telvik said, his tone patronizing. "With fleets and formations and—" "With predictability," Chen interrupted. "The Dominion wins because everyone fights them the same way. Massed formations, static defenses, predictable responses." She turned to face the council directly. "Humans learned something during our isolation. We learned patience. We learned that the strongest enemy has the most to lose. And we learned that sometimes the best way to win a war is to make your enemy defeat themselves." A Velocian diplomat, her crystalline form refracting the light, spoke with barely concealed contempt. "You speak of asymmetric warfare. Guerrilla tactics. These are the strategies of the desperate and the weak." Chen smiled slightly. "Yes, they are. And they work." The chamber erupted again, this time with a mixture of outrage and derision. Humans. Extinct primitive humans presuming to lecture the assembled might of the galaxy. "I have a proposal," Chen said, her voice cutting through the noise. "Give us 1 week. 1 target. Let us demonstrate what humanity has learned in 3 centuries of isolation. If we fail, you lose nothing. If we succeed—" She paused, letting the implication settle. "You gain an ally who fights differently than anyone you've ever known." Ambassador Telvik's expression was unreadable. 1 week. What target? "The Dominion staging ground at HFY Station," Chen said immediately. "It's their primary forward base in this sector. 16 dreadnoughts, 73 support vessels, and enough ordnance to level 30 planets. Intelligence says they're preparing for a massive offensive." "That's not a target," Zax said flatly. That's a death sentence. You'd need 500 ships in perfect coordination to even approach those defenses. Then we won't approach them, Chen replied. We'll do something else. What? That, Chen said, would ruin the surprise. The council chamber fell silent once more. The assembled delegates looked at each other, weighing the proposal. A human captain from a species thought extinct, asking for permission to engage the most fortified position in the sector with 20 ships. It was madness. It was also desperation. Finally, Ambassador Telvik spoke. 1 week, Captain Chen, but we'll be watching. If you fail, we won't, Chen said simply. She turned and walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. As she reached the doors, she paused and looked back. Oh, and Ambassador, you might want to position observation drones around Hepharos. I think the galaxy is going to want to see this. The doors closed behind her. In the silence that followed, Commander Zax pulled up the tactical display of Hepharos Station, a fortress bristling with weapons, shielded by overlapping defensive grids, protected by the most powerful fleet in known space. They're going to die, someone whispered. But deep in his warrior's heart, Zax felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Curiosity. Day 1. The observation drones positioned around Hepharos Station transmitted their feeds to every council world. Billions watched as Captain Chen's fleet materialized at the edge of the system, 20 small vessels against the Dominion's iron fortress. In the council chamber on Vareth Prime, Ambassador Telvik studied the tactical display with growing unease. They're just sitting there. Commander Zax nodded slowly. 4 million kilometers out. Beyond effective weapon range, but well within sensor sweep. The Dominion knows they're there. Then why haven't they engaged? Asked the Velocian delegate. Because, Zax said quietly. The Dominion is curious too. Aboard the Defiant, Captain Chen stood in the CIC, surrounded by holographic displays showing every angle of Hepharos Station. Her crew worked with practiced efficiency, humans who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Status, Commander Okafor? Chen asked. Her executive officer, a tall Nigerian man with salt and pepper hair, glanced up from his console. All ships maintaining position. The Dominion has dispatched 3 cruisers to investigate, but they're holding at 2 million clicks, waiting to see what we do. Good. Let them wait. Chen pulled up a timeline. Navigation confirm our drift calculations. Lieutenant Park, a young Korean woman at the helm, nodded. Confirmed, Captain. We're using the system's natural gravity wells and momentum. To any external observer, we're just floating, dead in the water. Except we're not, Chen said with a slight smile. No, ma'am. We're moving, just very, very slowly. Day 3. The galactic audience was growing restless. The human ships hadn't moved, at least not in any way that registered as tactical movement. They drifted, seemingly powerless like debris caught in the system's gravitational currents. This is embarrassing, Ambassador Telvik muttered, watching the feeds. They're doing nothing. But Commander Zax was studying something else, the long-range scans. Their power signatures are minimal. Life support and basic systems only. They've gone almost completely dark. Because they've given up, or because they don't want to be noticed. On the Defiant, Chen walked through the dimmed corridors. 90% of ship's power had been redirected to a single system, one that didn't show up on conventional scanners. She found Dr. Martinez in engineering, a compact Mexican woman surrounded by spinning holographic equations. How are we looking, Doctor? Martinez grinned. The quantum masking field is holding perfectly. To the Dominion sensors we read as inert metal. Interesting debris maybe, but not threats. They're so used to detecting active power signatures that they're blind to us. And the packages, deployed on schedule. 300 stealth drones, each no bigger than a fist spreading throughout the system on low-power trajectories. They'll reach their positions by day 6, Chen nodded. The Dominion scans for ships and weapons. They don't look for something that small and slow. Because no one fights that way, Martinez said. It's too patient. Too subtle. Exactly. Day 5. The Dominion's patience was thinning. Admiral Krax, commanding the Hepharos Defense Fleet, studied the human vessels with his 3 eyes narrowed in suspicion. They maintained their position, his tactical officer reported. No weapons charged. No shield modulation. Minimal power output for 5 days, Krax growled. His species, the Krillians, had conquered 47 civilizations through overwhelming force. This waiting game was beneath them. Perhaps the humans are truly as weak as the archives suggested. Perhaps they came here to die with dignity. Should we destroy them, Admiral? Krax considered. These humans had spoken boldly in the council chamber. Perhaps they deserved a chance to prove their obsolescence. Let them drift. When their week expires, we'll vaporize them as a lesson to the council. The galaxy will see what happens to those who challenge the Dominion with empty gestures. Day 7. The galaxy watched as the countdown reached 0. The human ships remained motionless, dark, apparently defeated before a shot was fired. On 1,000 worlds, species shook their heads in disappointment or relief. Humanity's return had been brief and pointless. Then Captain Chen's voice transmitted across all channels, Galactic Council frequencies, military bands, even civilian networks. Admiral Krax of the Krillian Dominion, I believe our week is up. On the bridge of the Dominion flagship, Krax laughed. A grating metallic sound. Indeed, human. Your demonstration has been underwhelming. I expected at least a futile attack. Instead, you've shown us nothing, haven't I? Chen's voice was calm, almost conversational. Tell me, Admiral, when was the last time you checked your reactor cores? Silence, or your ammunition storage facilities? Your shield generators? Your docking bay fuel reserves? Krax's expression shifted. Tactical, full internal scan now! The tactical officer's face went pale, an impressive feat for a gray-skinned Krillian. Admiral, we have foreign objects throughout the station. Hundreds of them. They're everywhere. Inside our shielding. Inside our ships. How is that possible? Our sensors would have. Your sensors look for threats, Chen interrupted. Ships, missiles, energy weapons. You don't scan for tiny, slow-moving objects that look like space dust. Objects that have been drifting through your defensive grid for the past 6 days, positioning themselves exactly where they need to be. On the observation feeds, the galaxy watched as Chen's ship suddenly blazed to life, power signatures erupting as their quantum masking dropped. Those aren't bombs, Admiral, Chen continued. They're fusion initiators, linked to your own systems, your own reactors, your own ammunition. Right now, 300 small devices are sitting on your most critical systems waiting for my signal. Krax's 3 eyes widened. You're bluffing. You couldn't possibly. Demonstration, Chen said simply. On the observation feeds, a small Dominion corvette, one of 73 support ships, suddenly erupted from within. Not destroyed by external fire, but consumed by its own reactor going critical. The explosion was small, contained, and absolutely precise. That was one device, Chen said. One signal. I have 299 more positioned throughout your station and fleet. Your dreadnoughts, your command ship, your ammunition depots, your life support systems. The silence across every channel was absolute. Here's what happens next, Admiral, Chen said, and her voice carried the weight of 3 centuries of human patience. You're going to power down your weapons. You're going to withdraw every ship from this sector, and you're going to send a message to your Dominion. Humanity is back and we don't fight the way you expect. This is treachery, Krax roared. Dishonorable. Cowardly tactics of a species that survives, Chen cut him off. You can call it whatever you want, Admiral. But right now you have 2 choices. Withdraw with your fleet intact or become the most expensive example in galactic history. Commander Zax, watching from Verath Prime, began to laugh. It started as a low rumble and built to a full-throated roar of appreciation. Around the council chamber, other species stared in stunned disbelief. The humans hadn't fired a single shot. They'd simply thought differently. On the observation feeds, the Dominion fleet began powering down its weapons. Admiral Krax's face appeared on the transmission, his expression a mixture of rage and something that might have been respect. You will regret this, human. The Dominion has a long memory. So do we, Admiral, Chen replied quietly. So do we. As the Dominion ships began their withdrawal, Chen turned to her crew. Commander Okafor, recall our drones. Dr. Martinez, bring the fleet to full power. Lieutenant Park, set course for Verath Prime. We're going back to the council? Okafor asked. Chen smiled. We have a proposal to discuss. Something about defensive strategies, intelligence sharing, and teaching the galaxy how to fight smarter. She looked at the retreating Dominion fleet. The war isn't over, but now they know we're not prey. What are we then? Park asked. Chen's smile widened. We're the species that waits, plans, and strikes where it hurts most. We're humanity, and we've been underestimated for the last time. The story. The council chamber on Vareth Prime had never been so crowded. Representatives from 300 species packed the hall, but this time the atmosphere was different. The mocking laughter was gone, replaced by an electric tension, part fear, part curiosity, part something that might have been hope. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the central podium, the same spot where she'd been dismissed as a relic just 7 days ago. Now every eye in the chamber was fixed on her. You've seen what 20 human ships can do, she began without preamble. Now imagine what 300 species can do if they stop fighting the Dominion's war and start fighting their own. Ambassador Telvik leaned forward, his forearms folded in a gesture of careful attention. You've proven your tactics work, Captain. But Hepharos was one station. The Dominion controls 10,000 systems. They have resources we can't match. You're right, Chen agreed. In a conventional war you can't win. The Dominion has more ships, more weapons, more territory. If you keep fighting them head-on, you'll lose. She paused, letting that truth settle. But what if you don't fight them head-on? Commander Zax's reptilian face showed what might have been a smile. You're proposing we all adopt human tactics. I'm proposing we teach the galaxy what humanity learned the hard way, Chen said. She activated the central display, showing a star map with the Dominion's territory in crimson. For 3 centuries, Earth was isolated, surrounded, presumed dead. We couldn't build a fleet large enough to challenge our enemies conventionally. So we did something else. We became ungovernable, unpredictable, and absolutely committed to making any victory against us too costly to be worth it. A Velosian delegate, her crystalline form refracting the light, spoke with obvious skepticism. You speak of insurgency, terrorism. These are not the tactics of civilized warfare. No, Chen said flatly. They're the tactics of survival. And right now survival is all that matters. She expanded the display, highlighting key Dominion supply routes. The Dominion's strength is their logistics. They conquered 47 civilizations because they can supply their fleets anywhere, anytime. But that same strength is a vulnerability. Every supply line is a target. Every fuel depot, every ammunition cache, every communication relay. Vulnerable. You want us to become raiders? Ambassador Telvik said slowly. I want you to become asymmetric, Chen corrected. The Dominion expects massive fleet engagements. Give them small, fast strikes instead. They expect to defend territory. Make them defend everything, everywhere, all at once. They expect predictability. Become chaos. Dr. Martinez appeared beside Chen, pulling up technical schematics. Humanity is willing to share everything we've developed. Quantum masking technology, stealth drone deployment systems, microfusion devices, communication encryption that even the Dominion can't crack, and most importantly, tactical doctrine. Training, Commander Okafor added, stepping forward. We'll embed human advisors with every willing species. Not to command, but to teach, to show you how to see warfare differently. The chamber erupted in debate. 300 species arguing, calculating, weighing pride against survival. Then a voice cut through the noise, ancient, resonant, carrying authority that silenced everyone. The humans are correct. All eyes turned to the speaker. Elder Vryn of the Asharan Concordat, one of the oldest spacefaring species in the galaxy. His translucent form floated above his delegation, pulsing with bioluminescent thought patterns. Our species is 12 million years old, Vryn continued. We have survived 4 galactic extinction events. Do you know how? He paused, his form rippling. Not by being the strongest, by being the most adaptable, by learning from those who think differently. His attention fixed on Chen. The humans have offered us a gift, the gift of perspective. I suggest we accept it. Ambassador Telvik's expression was unreadable. And if we do, what then? The Dominion will not simply accept defeat. They will come for us with everything they have. Yes, Chen said simply. They will. Which is why we need to be ready. She pulled up a new tactical display. Not of a single battle, but of a coordinated campaign spanning dozens of systems. This is the Dominion's planned offensive. Intelligence suggests they're massing their fleets for a three-pronged assault on the core worlds. It launches in 30 days. The chamber went silent. Traditionally, you'd mass your forces to meet them, Chen continued. Create defensive lines, prepare for siege warfare, and you'd lose because that's exactly what they expect. She manipulated the display, showing alternative strategies. Instead, we let them advance. We harass their supply lines. We strike their staging areas. We make every parsec they travel cost them dearly. And when they reach the core worlds exhausted and depleted, we hit them with everything we have, but not where they expect. Commander Zax was studying the plan with predatory intensity. You're proposing we bait them. Let them think they're winning, until they realize they're bleeding, Chen confirmed. The Dominion has never fought an enemy like this. They've never had to defend their rear while advancing their front. They've never faced an opponent who treats retreat as a weapon and patience as a virtue. It's risky, Telvik said, but there was calculation in his voice now, not dismissal. It's necessary, Chen replied. The question is, are you willing to learn? Are you willing to fight differently? Or do you want to keep doing what you've always done and hope for a different result? Elder Vrin's form pulsed with approval. The Asharan Concordat stands with humanity. We will learn these new ways. Commander Zax rose, his massive form imposing. The Korgathi have lost 2 worlds to the Dominion. We are warriors, yes, but we are not fools. If these human tactics can bring us victory, we will master them. The Korgathi stand with humanity. One by one, species after species declared their support. Not all. Some were too proud, too set in their ways, too certain that conventional warfare was the only honorable path. But enough. More than enough, Ambassador Telvik finally stood, his forearms spread wide. The Saranthian Collective recognizes humanity as a full member of the Galactic Council. Captain Chen, you and your people have our support, our resources, and our gratitude. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Then let's get to work. 28 days later, the Dominion launched their offensive. 3 massive fleets, each containing over 1,000 ships, drove toward the core worlds in a devastating display of military might. On their command bridges, Dominion admirals anticipated glorious conquest. What they got was different. The first fleet lost 16 supply ships to microfusion devices before they even engaged the enemy. The second fleet found their long-range communications jammed by technology they couldn't decrypt. The third fleet detected enemy forces, and when they moved to engage, found only empty space and phantom sensor echoes. Then the attacks began. Small, fast strikes. Never where expected. Never following conventional tactics. A Korgathi raiding party destroyed a fuel depot. Asharan stealth ships disabled 3 dreadnoughts with precision strikes on their reactor systems. Saranthian forces ambushed a supply convoy. Not with superior numbers, but with perfect information and timing. The Dominion fleets pressed forward, but they were bleeding. On the bridge of the Defiant, Captain Chen watched the tactical display with Commander Okafor at her side. They're adapting slower than we expected, Okafor observed. Still trying to fight conventionally even as their logistics collapse. Arrogance, Chen replied. They've won the same way for so long that they can't imagine a different kind of war. She highlighted 3 key systems. Phase 2 begins in 6 hours. Are our allied fleets in position? All 347 ships from 17 different species, Okafor confirmed. Waiting for your signal, Chen nodded slowly. The Dominion's 3 fleets were exactly where humanity had predicted they'd be. Overextended, undersupplied, and completely unprepared for what came next. In our history, Chen said quietly, there was an old saying, the enemy gets a vote. The Dominion voted to fight their kind of war. Now it's time to show them what happens when humanity votes differently. She opened a channel to every ship in the Allied fleet. Human, Korgathi, Asharan, Saranthian, Velocian, and hundreds more. 300 species who had learned to think like humans. All forces. This is Chen, execute Phase 2. On the tactical display, the trap closed. Not a conventional encirclement. The Dominion would have broken through that. Instead, a coordinated campaign of simultaneous strikes across all 3 fronts. Supply lines cut, communication arrays destroyed, retreat routes mined with stealth devices. And then, when the Dominion fleets were isolated and depleted, the Allied forces hit them with overwhelming, coordinated force at their weakest points. The battles lasted 6 hours. When they ended, 2 Dominion fleets had surrendered. The third had retreated in disarray. 48 hours later, a transmission arrived from the Dominion High Command. Not a threat, not a declaration of continued warfare, a request for negotiations. In the council chamber on Vareth Prime, Ambassador Telvik stood beside Captain Chen, watching the Dominion's representative, Admiral Krax himself, appear on the holographic display. The Dominion recognizes, Krax said stiffly, each word clearly painful, that this conflict has reached an impasse. We are willing to discuss terms. Chen stepped forward. Here are the terms, Admiral. Complete withdrawal from the disputed territories, reparations to the species you've conquered, and a non-aggression treaty with the Galactic Council. These are non-negotiable. Krax's three eyes narrowed. And if we refuse? Then we continue teaching the galaxy how to fight, Chen said simply. Every species you face will use our tactics. Every battle will cost you more than you can afford. Every victory will be Pyrrhic. Eventually, the Dominion will collapse not from a single defeat but from 1,000 invisible wounds. The silence stretched for long seconds. Finally, Krax nodded slowly. The Dominion accepts your terms. But know this, human, you have not destroyed us. You have merely postponed our inevitable victory. Maybe, Chen said, or maybe you've just learned what humanity figured out 3 centuries ago. The strongest enemy isn't the one with the biggest fleet. It's the one who refuses to fight your war. The transmission ended. Around the council chamber, 300 species erupted in celebration, not because the war was over, but because they had finally learned to win. Commander Zax approached Chen, his reptilian face showing genuine respect. You've changed the galaxy, Captain. Shown us that survival is not about strength alone, but about adaptation, about thinking differently. We showed you what humans do best, Chen replied. We learn, we adapt, we survive, and we never ever fight fair when our survival is at stake. Elder Vrin's form pulsed with approval. The galaxy owes humanity a debt it can never repay. Chen shook her head. You don't owe us anything, Elder. You gave us something far more valuable than gratitude. You gave us a chance to prove that humanity belongs among the stars. That we're not just survivors, but partners. She looked out at the assembled species, at the representatives who had gone from mocking laughter to genuine alliance in just 30 days. 300 years ago, the galaxy thought we were extinct. Today we're standing here together because we refuse to accept that fate, because we chose to adapt rather than surrender, because we believe that ingenuity beats strength. Strategy beats numbers and patience beats aggression. Chen smiled, and in that smile was the weight of 3 centuries of human determination. The Dominion feared nothing, until they learned to fear a species that fights with their minds as much as their weapons. Welcome to the new galaxy. Welcome to humanity's return. And welcome, she added, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber, to a future where no one underestimates us again. In orbit above Vareth Prime, the Defiant hung among hundreds of allied vessels, human and alien, united not by similarity, but by a shared understanding. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was home, and they were never leaving again.